I'm afraid I'm being stalked. Hey, folks. Long-time lurker here. Making my first post because something weird started happening to me recently and I'm not really sure what's going on. I'm not ashamed to admit I'm getting a little freaked out. Please let me know if you have any ideas on what this all is. I was coming home from work Monday night when things first started to be odd. I'm a web editor for my city newspaper and work the evening shift. Usually that's about 4 p.m. to midnight, but I often stay late if there's advance work I can do. The city's a bit of a sprawl, but I live only maybe 2 miles away from my work, so I just bike to get around. Monday night I left work around 2 a.m. Technically Tuesday morning, and started riding home. I live in a quiet, residential part of town, so it's unusual for me to see people on my commute home. In a neighborhood of morning office workers, everyone's home is shuttered and all lights are off by 11. It's actually a little eerie sometimes. No cars ever pass through at night and the silence can put you on edge. The heavy trees lining the street block a lot of the moonlight and the street lamps here are few and far between. I was about 3/4 of a mile from my apartment when I saw a girl standing at an intersection I was approaching. I mean, she was literally standing in the middle of the road. She was wearing a long white dress. My ex used to have one like it to wear to the beach, so she was easy to see in the darkness. As I got closer, I could see that she was leaning forward on 2 canes and looking around as if she were trying to make out the street signs. The streets around where I live can be confusing, so I braked near her and asked her if she was lost. She used her canes to slowly turn herself to face me and smile. She was actually astonishingly pretty. Really dark eyes and long black hair. But she was weirdly pallid and her arms on the canes were really thin. Like, really thin. I had been guessing she had some sort of disease or disorder from her use of the canes, but as she turned, her dress swept up a bit and I saw that her feet, in sandals, were facing the opposite direction than usual. "No, I'm fine," she said. Her voice was high and nasal, like someone was pinching her nose. She turned back, her motions kind of robotic and sharp like a bird's, and started looking up at the street signs again. I was feeling really bad for her at this point. Clearly, this girl had some sort of deformity and was lost alone in the middle of the night. I was hesitant to just leave her in the middle of the street but didn't want to seem like that creepy guy insisting on talking to her. "Well, you should get out of the street so you don't get hit by a car," I said as I got ready to pedal off. "There are never any cars around here at night," she replied. That made me feel better, that she at least knew where she was. So maybe she was just crazy and not lost. I looked over my shoulder as I biked away, but she was just there in the intersection still, looking around. I didn't really think much more of it. I was pretty tired when I got home, so I locked my bike up to a sign outside of my building instead of carrying it up the stairs to my apartment like I usually do. Not typically a good idea in my city, as there are a lot of bike thieves, but I was tired and lazy. I got up early on Tuesday morning to go meet a friend for breakfast when I saw there was something weird on my bike. I thought it was just that someone had balanced some trash on the seat, but it turned out to these white flowers. Just the top parts, not the stems. I brushed them off and looked down and saw a little pile of uncooked rice by my kickstand. I was kind of grossed out because it looked like a mouse was hoarding it or something. That happened a few times in my parents' house. I checked my bike and, once I was convinced that it was mouse-free, I went on my way. Nothing else weird happened on Tuesday. Last night, though, these really random things happened in my apartment. I got home a bit early for me, maybe 11:30, and the doorknob lock on my apartment door was undone. Instead, the deadbolt was locked. I always do the reverse, my deadbolt can be sticky and hard to open. But I assumed I had just subconsciously done it differently that afternoon. When I put my bike down and went into the kitchen for a beer, shit was weird. I live alone, keep in mind. but someone had emptied out the half-gallon of milk from my fridge into a mixing bowl on the floor. I tried to turn on the light, but the switch just flicked back and forth. I turned on all my living room lights, got a flashlight and looked back in the kitchen. The light bulb was shattered in the ceiling fixture. Some of the broken glass was on the floor and some of it was in the bowl of milk. I stepped into the kitchen and there was this squelching noise of my shoe against some sticky liquid on the floor. I noped the fuck out of there and checked every inch of my apartment for signs of an intruder. There wasn't anything else amiss and there was no one in there. But let me tell you, pulling back that shower curtain was a terrifying moment. I brought over a floor lamp and plugged it in so I could see inside the kitchen. That squelchy liquid? Mustard? I don't even know what to make of this. Does this make sense to anyone? Someone had literally squirted my bottle of hot dog mustard all over the floor. There were these little rolling things in it. Further investigation showed that the jar of mustard seeds from my spice rack was emptied out everywhere. Little packets were opened and scattered all over my countertops. They were all the random packets of mustard I had lying around from takeout. My kitchen was just a shit show of mustard and milk. I didn't call the cops. I don't know, should I have? What would I have even said? Hey, guys. Someone apparently got into my apartment, didn't steal anything, but had a condiment party in my kitchen. It took forever but I cleaned all that mess up and just went to bed. I locked both locks, and will continue to do so, and shoved a chair under the doorknob. And yeah, I left most of the lights in the house on. So now I'm just getting up for the day. But while I was typing this post up, something else really weird just happened. The security guy, Martin, from my office just called my cell phone. He said that there was a girl who just came into the foyer asking to see me. Martin said that he told her I didn't usually get in until the afternoon but said if she told him her name, he'd let me know that she stopped by. She then just gave him a nasty look and left. He said it really creeped him out. His hair was standing on end and he felt cold after she left. He decided to just call me to see if I knew who she was. I asked Martin what she looked like. He said she had long, black hair and was on crutches. Edit 2:30 p.m. Felt really creeped out hanging out in my apartment and decided to go into work early. Talked to Martin when I got in and told him the short version of my story. He was really apologetic about telling the girl I work afternoons, but I feel like that's something anyone could figure out anyway. He also said he'd tell the night security guy to keep an eye out for her, just in case. I'm just getting started on my work now and have a date tonight, wish me luck, so I'm hoping to keep my mind off things for the next few hours. Something more happened last night / this morning. The night started off awesome and went really bad. I'm assuming it's related to this all, but I'm not going to try to explain it. I got drinks last night with my It's Complicated friend Mara. It was a ton of fun. We went out to this pool hall place. I told her about the stuffs that's been happening and she thought it was just a series of weird events that weren't related and that I was overreacting. She was so certain and was teasing me about being scared. It took a lot of my fear away and I honestly began to wonder if this was all in my head. We played some pool and darts and had beers until about midnight. We were a little buzzed, but not outright drunk, and getting flirty. Anyway, I'm going to spare you the salacious details but we decided to go home together. She's got a really nosy / judgmental roommate so we took a cab back to my place. I left my bike at the office when I went to the bar to meet her. We checked all the locks and windows and did the chair propped under the doorknob thing before we went to bed. She still thought I was being overly fearful. Actually, her words were, wimpier than her little sister, but played along to humor me. She had seen in a movie that you can put empty beer bottles upside down along the closed door so they fall over and wake you if it's opened, so we did that, too. I woke up at about 3, alone in bed and assumed that Mara had left. But then I heard her snore in the kitchen. I found her asleep on the kitchen floor, using one of my hoodies as a blanket. But she'd sleepwalked and done weird things. All of the frozen meat from my freezer, a big steak, 3 chicken breasts and tray of ground beef, was unwrapped and arranged around where she was sleeping. She was still holding the plastic wrap in her hand and the freezer door wasn't fully shut. Edit, I should add that the door and beer bottles were undisturbed. She had tried to saw through 2 of the chicken breasts with a serrated steak knife, but they were frozen solid so the knife was a little bent and stuck in one of them. I woke Mara up and she was creeped out by her own behavior and really apologetic about ruining all my meat. She said she doesn't sleepwalk often but she did occasionally as a kid, where she'd walk into her parents' bedroom and lie down on the floor and once she slept under their bed. But when Mara was getting up from the floor, she winced and said her thigh hurt. She was wearing my gym shorts and pulled them aside and there was this long cut/bruise on her leg. We both freaked out about that. We were nowhere near drunk enough last night for her to have fallen over and not remember it, and if she ran that hard into a table while sleepwalking, I feel like I would have woken up. She was shaken up and just wanted to go home, so I called her a taxi. We just cleaned up the meat, threw it down the trash chute and disinfected the floor in silence until her cab came. Here are some of the common questions I got. I talked to my landlord yesterday evening and he says the maintenance guy can come change the locks today. I didn't request a lock change when I moved in, so he says that I can just do it now. And he says he'll put in a chain lock. Someone was suggesting that the last tenants could have sold the key to the apartment when moving out, so I'll be really happy when there's new ones. I'm not sure what kind of flowers the ones on my bike were. I don't really know a lot about flowers. But they were white and more like daisies than roses. They were the kind with lots of little thin petals sticking up in a circle and no seeds or middle part. I didn't know there were different types of mustard seed. The kind I had was in a glass jar that came with the spice rack and were tan colored. Uluboy is my name because it's what my cousins call me and it's kind of my nickname. The word Ulu is Punjabi for owl but also means a dumb person, like fool. My mom used to hiss it at me when I was doing something stupid. I guess I did enough stupid stuff for it to stick, haha. My mom's Indian but moved here when she was really young and my dad's a white guy from Pennsylvania. I was basically raised as a white kid. I don't really speak that much Punjabi or go to temple. We mostly ate American food growing up, that kind of thing. I've never heard bhoot/ghost stories from India before. My mom didn't really tell folk stories or superstitions, she's a pharmacist and doesn't like non-practical or non-scientific things. But I'll call her tonight to talk about it anyway. My grandpa was a superstitious old man so she probably at least heard stories growing up. The bhoot thing is scary. I don't want to believe in ghosts, but I really am not going to put anything out of the realm of possibility. People were saying I should avoid milk. I don't have any since the half-gallon went in my mixing bowl. But when I threw out my meat last night, I also took all the dairy stuff out of the apartment just in case, which was just my coffee creamer and a block of cheddar. Which feels like a ridiculous thing to do, throwing away cheese, but I'd do anything at this point. I'm seriously out of groceries but will probably just eat out this weekend. I'll let you know if my mom knows any stories and if Mara says I can post a picture of her leg. And then my dad got angry for my mom being really dismissive of other people's problems, la la la, it turned into a fight about latent issues they had. Then my dad disappeared for 15 minutes and came back and said he'd called my aunt, my mom's younger sister, who's into mysticism and everything. And my aunt thinks I do have a real bhoot problem and wants to come with me to my apartment tomorrow. And that set my mom off, because she thinks her little sister is a gullible joke, so there was more fighting. Jesus. Long story short, it's been a hell of a night. I'm in the spare bedroom in their house and am extremely ready to watch some How I Met Your Mother and go the fuck to bed. Good news, though, is that my aunt is coming with me to my apartment tomorrow to check things out and do some kind of blessing thing. Important side note, I've been texting with Mara and she's good. She got a co-worker to walk her to her car after work today and is now home with her roommate. She's weirded out by the soap thing but isn't blaming me for anything. I'll keep you in the loop once my aunt and I go back to my place tomorrow. Edit, 4:30 p.m. Saturday. So, spending the day with Auntie Jasmine has been interesting. We got a bit of a late start this morning because she came over and she and my mom had to have their obligatory fight over my aunt teaching me to be a superstitious idiot like her. I'll spare you the details. My mom eventually gave in and said she didn't care because doing stupid rites wouldn't solve anything. So before we went back to my place, my aunt wanted to know exactly what happened. I ended up just showing her these stories on my laptop, because I don't think she'd care about the Mara bit. Actually, she thought the sleepwalking was really disturbing from a supernatural standpoint, as Mara's not done it since being a kid. But at least she wasn't fazed about my premarital sex. Some important backstory is that my Aunt Jasmine is a little out there and very eclectic in her beliefs. She and my mom and their brother were raised Sikh, but none of them really followed it in adulthood. Jasmine's first marriage, this was a while back, was this rebellious match that her parents didn't approve of with a Hindu guy. But they divorced after only a few years. I think he was cheating? Anyway, and then she got really into New Age beliefs, crystal healing, au natural life, auras, spirit guides, stuff like that. Now she's married to this very Catholic guy and her religion is this combo Christianity Mother Nature thing she's more or less inventing herself. She's big into the Virgin Mary. I have been reading this thread ever since yesterday, my first nosleep thread that I read here, and after reading your update today, felt I had to comment, so I registered for the first time. At first I honestly thought that, while your story was incredibly scary and cleverly written, it was just that, a story. But after reading your update today, it seems that everything is not fitting into some neat lit package, and I am now seriously starting to get scared for you. The thing that really troubled me this morning was when I read this. I'm not sure what kind of flowers the ones on my bike were. I don't really know a lot about flowers. But they were white and more like daisies than roses. They were the kind with lots of little thin petals sticking up in a circle and no seeds or middle part. Now, I am not someone who's normally very knowledgeable about flowers either, but as a female, and having just had my wedding a few months ago, I did start to know a few different names of flowers and their appearances. What you've described above sounds very much like a chrysanthemum to me, and upon reading the Wikipedia page on them, it kind of has me freaked out. In some countries of Europe, example France, Italy, Spain, Poland, Hungary, Croatia, chrysanthemums are symbolic of death and are only used for funerals or on graves. Similarly, in China, Japan and Korea, white chrysanthemums are symbolic of lamentation and or grief. Source, Wikipedia. Yeah, you're right. Someone else posted a picture of the chrysanthemum and that was it, but maybe not fully opened. I don't know what it means, but I'm like 95% sure that's the same flower. Have you tried riding to the same intersection around the same time at night? Or try talking in your room, alone, to see if she would appear? I'm getting creeped out, and definitely would be scared to do anything like this alone. LOL, I am the other person who posted the pic. No worries, glad I could help, though I must admit I kind of wish I was wrong and it wasn't that flower. I felt the exact same. This thread was my first nosleep story and it made me feel like everything is real. Some other ones sound like a well-written story, but this one has so much reality in it that I can't help but feel that the stories on nosleep are real. Concerning the rice, I know about the chopsticks thing as my dad always reminds me not to do it. I'm Chinese, so I can confirm that superstition. Only thing I can bring to table is that I read a wiki page on Chinese vampires a while back. They suck chi or something. Anyway, apparently they have to count every single grain of rice they pass, so people would often leave bags of rice outside their house. Not really relevant here since the hood is the one leaving the rice, but hey, thought I'd share. the Bhoot must be after the Op, and also a Chinese vampire is after him too. So we have this unsung battle between the two, and Miss Bhoot left rice as her weapon against the vampire. Perhaps glass in milk was a counter-attack from vampire to Bhoot. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment Reddit Story Time for more Reddit stories.